Hello everyone, DonTheCrown here, and today I want to do a video that has been long requested, especially for brand new players, but even if you're a veteran, this might help you out a little bit if you're returning, and that is where to find everything in Torchlight Infinite. And basically what we're going to do in this video is we're going to go through almost everything that you can drop on the ground or get from a league mechanic or anything else, and just kind of talk about where to get it, how to get it, and kind of like what kind of stuff affects it. This is obviously going to be a rather long video, but we will put timestamps down below to kind of help out, so you can skip around if you need to go and research something. And hopefully this will last somewhat the test of time, but we'll see about that. Now, starting off first, in game, there is the ability for you to figure out exactly how to find stuff. And pretty much almost anything that you can search up in the auction house, with one exception, Fates. If you click on the item and then click on this little hamburger button at the bottom, the 3 lines, there will be this drop source button that will pop up. And if you click drop source, it will tell you where it drops from. Now it might say it drops everywhere in the Netherrealm, or it might specifically tell you it has a chance of dropping after defeating the Lone King of Eterna in the end of Eterna, which just tells you that this comes from the boss of the Eterna mechanic. And this is really just great for kind of figuring out where stuff comes from. You don't need to go to some third-party tool or the database website to figure out most of the stuff. You can just find it right in the game, which is pretty nice, I think. Now, next up, beacons. These are pretty much your maps. These are the things that you're going to be running. And for the most part, you are going to be finding these yourself or buying these off the marketplace. The only really mechanic that kind of gives you more of these is God of War. There is a compass, which we'll talk about here shortly, that does make God of War way more difficult by making all blue monsters have significantly more life, but they drop way more beacons. And if you really are in need of beacons, you can go and talk to Zach the Hunter here and go to this trading thing. And he has a whole beacon shop where you can convert Netherrealm resonance into beacons up to time mark 7. And we actually have a lot of things in his shop here that's very useful. Next up, we can talk about compasses. This is pretty much the main juice for juicing up and enhancing your Netherrealm experience. And these primarily come from all over the place. But if you're looking for a mechanic to specifically farm, doing the combination of Doro Doro, which is the pet that increases compass drop rates, and the clockwork mechanic as well. These are the kind of main way to farm compasses. You also can get some from God of Hunting as well, which is pretty good. One thing to note is that Doro Doro is kind of a on and off pet. She's not always available to pull on the banner, and she kind of alternates with Kong, whereas this pet up here is available at all times. A lot of these compasses can be very expensive or pretty cheap, and typically you end up wanting to use quite a bit of compasses as you're doing a lot of end game farming. So this always ends up being pretty profitable. Next up here, we have the other commodities. So things like Energy Core, Elixir Oblivion, Netherrealm Resonance, and Winding Keys. Energy Core allows you to change the energy on your gear, which allows you to kind of have more access to more supports on your gear. Elixir Oblivion allows you to respec. And a lot of times, if you are trying to respec past level 90, so 91 and above, it does cost Elixir Oblivions, but you really don't need to worry about that because for the most part, you're probably going to have some in your commodity tab here. And you can see I actually have 142 of them, which is, quite a bit. It could respec my entire tree. And so always check your commodity tree here before you start going on major respecking, because you might actually have a ton of these. Netherrealm Resonance is kind of the other thing that helps you juice up maps in the Netherrealm. So when you are clicking in here on a map, you can go and add additional modifiers, and it's going to cost Netherrealm Resonance. And you can really just find this anywhere in the Netherrealm, but there is a part of the commodities tree that specifically gives you more Netherrealm Resonance when you kill bosses. So speccing into these points can help out, but there's not really any other thing you can do besides adding more quantity to your maps or just using less resonance. I tend to just buy a whole bunch of this once I'm in the end game as well. Winding Keys, these are pretty much your respecs for the Void Chart tree, and you can spec in 2 points here to make bosses have a chance to drop Winding Keys. This is also another great thing to farm because people always are respecking all the time. And if you don't necessarily have any of these respecs, also make sure you check your commodity tree again, your commodity tab. You'll probably have some in there because you get like, I think 80 plus just from going and getting up to Traveler 7. Each one of the quest steps gives you a pair of winding key or a set of winding keys that are bound to you and have like a yellow lock symbol on them. So only you can use them anyways. Next up, we have Embers. Embers are one of the main crafting materials here in Torchlight Infinite, and there are several different embers you're going to need. So fine embers are for kind of like the lowest tier of crafting. Precious is for basic mods, and matchless is for doing the advanced mods. Then ultimate embers is for ultimate mods. And there's a couple of different mechanics right now that are kind of good for farming embers. And there are 2 pets that are kind of going to work with this. So the pirate captain here makes it so you have a chance to drop embers when you kill bosses. And then City of Eterna has been reworked to have a whole bunch of ember stuff inside of it. And so that seasonal mechanic is now kind of associated with embers. There's also God of Might. I farmed up a whole bunch from doing Path of the Brave, which we'll talk about in a little bit. So there's several different mechanics for these. These can really just find basically anywhere. But especially like the ultimate embers can be relatively difficult to drop for yourself. Next up, fossils. These pretty much are used kind of in endgame crafting. Truth fossils are like your divines, I guess you could say, from PoE. You can go and use these by going and clicking this little thing up here. It allows you to re-roll the values on all of the affixes on your gear, and does consume one of them, and it is random, and you can't like roll it back. So you kind of have to like continuously gamble to make sure or to find the next upgrade type of thing. Whereas sacred fossils here are only used in the ultimate endgame crafting stuff when you're trying to upgrade things to a tier 0 modifier. That's where sacred fossils are going to be used. And both of these you pretty much are going to find in the end game. You end up finding a lot more fossils in deep space. And if we go and we look at the nether realm here, you can see kind of the different rewards you get. But in profound is when sacred fossils start dropping. And I believe also there's going to be a new mechanic this season called Cage of Original Sin that has some void chart points that are associated with fossils in particular. And then next, Flame Elementium here is the kind of like the main crafting and trading resource for the game. And this is pretty much designed to kind of be the core part of the trade experience. Now, you're not going to start dropping Flame Elementium, I believe, until you get to time mark 5. And as you go up each time mark, your odds of dropping Flame Elementium go up and up and up. And there's not really like any one particular mechanic that is like the Flame Elementium mechanic, except for maybe whatever the current season is. Typically, the current season drops a lot more Flame Elementium just to encourage you to get your butt in there and actually do it. There is the Chalk Pack Spirit, which does increase the odds of Flame Elementium hitting in the ground. It has like a 1% chance to like generate a Flame Elementium or Flame Fuel when killing a monster, which is like the Flame Sand, which I somehow didn't put on this entire sheet. I don't believe Flame Sand is like the mini Flame Elementium for lower tier crafting, especially when you're doing the fine ember crafting. Next up, we have boss keys. And there's pretty much broken up into 2 different sections. And the reason there's 2 different sections is because the first section here right above me was from the very first season, and then they kind of changed course moving forward. But the ones on the left come from Pirates, Cube, City of Eterna, and Dream. And in order to get the first invitation, the first key, if you would, you do the mechanic in the Netherrealm or in its own side stuff with the City of Eterna. In order to get the higher level keys, you need to go and use the first key. So by doing Desire Core Record, the first one here, if you kill this boss, it has a chance to drop a Corrosion. And then you need to use both the first and the second key together to have a chance to drop the third key. And then when you want to use the third key, you have to use all 3 keys together. So this can kind of get pretty expensive, and it does make it so that farming the lower level bosses is still kind of viable as well, because people need those higher level keys. The difference here with the last set is Dark Surge is there's 2 difficulties of the boss, and it's basically using the first 3 keys, and then the 4th key as well is the second difficulty. So you use all 4 keys for the final difficulty, but just the first 3 for the first difficulty. And all of these keys pretty much only exclusively come from doing Dark Search. I don't even believe that you can drop these off of the boss. They don't really give you anything extra besides like the boss drops. Next up, emblems. Emblems are kind of like a little bit of annoyance. These are like really rare drops from the corresponding mechanic. And typically there is one of these that is super duper expensive. Divinity Machines was the one that was pretty rare for a while. Lately it's been War. We'll see where it goes in the future. But you use these to go and do this mechanic over here at the Space-Time Wanderer, the Trial of Divinity. And there's a whole bunch of good legendaries that can come out of this. A lot of the legendaries that can drop off of this are some of the like rarer and more desirable ones, but it is a rather difficult full clear. You pretty much need to be like a super end game geared out character with the ability to like stand in fire and nuke down monsters nonstop. It's very, very, very hard. A lot of my characters have not been able to complete this, even like once I've completed Supreme Showdown 20. This is kind of just something that is on the path of progression pretty frequently for you to go and do. And lots of times I don't finish all the way there. Next up, we have Proof of the Brave. And this is pretty much 5 sets of keys. And there's really kind of 2 ways to get these. You can drop any 5 of the keys from pretty much going and running stuff in the Netherrealm, or you can drop a key from doing the lower version of the key. So every time you do Path of the Brave 1, every time, if you kill the boss at the end, you will drop a level 2 key. Every time you clear a level 2, it'll drop a level 3. Every time you clear a level 3, you'll drop a level 4. Every time you clear a level 4, you'll drop a level 5. And then level 5 doesn't drop any additional keys. And you only need to use just whatever the key is. And you can just go and use this over here at Zenith by clicking Path of the Brave and just clicking on the difficulty. This will have like recommended DPS or recommended survivability. A lot of time these numbers are just way off. Just know that they do get pretty difficult pretty fast. And the big rewards for these is there are some divination cards that or some precise auras and stuff that you can pretty much only get from doing these. Level 21 support skills as well, ultimate embers. And there is like very, very rare like clergy thinking and stuff like that in order to like get some very good stuff. So this is a very popular place for people that have like card pets in order to farm. Next up, Fluorescent Memories. These are pretty much the equivalent of Path of Exile's divination cards. These are things that you get a full stack of them and then you hand in to get a reward of some sort, whether that is a slate or a particular legendary or even just like raw currency. These are pretty popular and they kind of drop all over the place. Each card might have its own specific drop place, like whether it's like Path of the Brave has a few that only drop there. Every single zone has a card that is exclusive to it, which you can tell by if you click on a map in the zone and it tells you what the reward is. So here in Glacial Abyss, if I click here, I can see the reward potential is Gaze Upon the Reflection, which gives a twin reflection when handed in for 10. And these are just incredibly rare. Anything that's red is incredibly rare. You can also see the blue card that is available with that as well. The Pack Spirit Kong here is pretty much the opposite side of the coin from Doro Doro, the Compass Pet. And this guy is available only some of the time as a active banner. Next up, we have the first real season mechanic here, which is Hero Memories. And this is a huge part of your player power. And you're going to have 3 different types of hero memories at the bottom here. Memory of Origin, Discipline, and Progress. And these are going to go into your hero traits and unlock the options for you. You need to have at least one socketed into them, but you're also going to level these up as well to like level 50. If it's a red one, orange goes up to 40. And in order to do that, you're going to need memory scraps and memory threads of the corresponding correct color. So blue for blue memories, purple for purple memories, and then orange for orange and red memories. And all of these come from the pirate mechanic, or they also just drop from the nether realm. And if you're going and doing pirates specifically, you're going to be able to pick what type of farm you're going for. This little section over the tree right now pretty much gives you the ability to choose between doing memory enhancement stuff, or if you want to go over here and do the quantity of hero memories, or down here is quantity and rarity of just everything in there. It just gives you like a little bit of adjustment for what exactly you want to pick. And typically what people will do is at the lower tiers, so like tier 7, they'll be doing like memory scraps, and then in tier 8, they'll look for like memory threads and sell that. And then in profound and above, they're looking for like orange or red memories that are very powerful. And the seasonal pack spirit for this as well does help you drop all of these materials more likely. Next up, we have special supports. If you've been looking at a build guide and you saw a support on your main skill, that's either in the 3rd or the 5th spot, that looks a little weird and you can't find in the shop, you can't figure it out, this is probably a special support from the canvas mechanic. And the way that this works is pretty much you have to spend snow paper fragment to go and run the canvas mechanic, which is all the way over here with Niv. And by going and investing into this, you can pretty much go and start a sandpaper game or snow paper game, and you have to like fill out all the stuff and put things in the right places. And it can be a little bit complicated, but this is also really fun and enjoyable. And all of these different special skills can also just be found by going and like looking up their name, and you can just purchase them from other people. If you're trying to solo self-find your own particular one of these, like finding one of these, it's gonna be pretty painful for you, specifically because it's just hard to find these. They're pretty rare sometimes, and they have different tiers of rarity. So yeah, pretty hard to do. Inspiration essence is also a material that you need in order to upgrade the memories or the skills themselves. And this also drops from the canvas mechanic. Next up, we have activation mediums, and these are pretty much all of the automation tools in the game, period. Whether that's like track, burst activation, or like on this character right now, I'm using like activation medium sentry. So whenever there is not a sentry near me, it will try to drop my sentry. Anytime my energy shield is low, which is all of the time, it will try to proc my defensive skill or my offensive skill. And so all of these come from the Mistville mechanic, which you do by going here to Wally, the Mistville trader, and you can go talk to him. Now you do need to have enough, I think it's called infection, by going and consuming eyeballs. So these little resonance eyes here gives you 7 infection progress. So right now I'm like up to needing 300 infection per run. So it is pretty expensive at endgame. And then the very tippity top version of Mistville requires that you use these mist essences in order to go into the final difficulty, and requires 42 of them, which you drop these from going and just doing the Mistville mechanic. This is like one of the main ways that the lower tiers of Mistville makes money, is by selling these mist essences, because lots of times these are like 30 to 50 FE, depending on the season and the time of season, all that kind of stuff. And this is like definitely between this and Canvas are both kind of difficult side mini games that aren't really part of the main game, but they can be really fun and rewarding if you learn to master them. Next up, let's talk about Corrosion. Corrosion is very similar to like corrupting gear in other games, and you're able to gamble a piece of gear here by going over to our boy Zenith again. And you can corrode legendaries or non-legendaries just by putting it in and clicking the corrosion button, and you need to have the corresponding currency. Now, some of these corrupted accesses, these come from the clockwork mechanic, whereas the things for corrupting legendaries comes from the Dark Surge mechanic. And so if you have these, you could potentially have different outcomes. One of the good outcomes here is turning 2 of your modifiers up a tier, so you can get like tier 0 plus modifiers on your non-legendary gear. And if you throw like a legendary in here, for example, you can potentially turn some of these into tier 0 modifiers, which just give you more buffs. And some of these even like massively change the legendary altogether, or just like really increase the numbers, like these purple numbers you may see. That is from Corrosion. Next up, we have Slates and Wedges. This is from the cube mechanic. This is a big part of empowering your character, and you're going to get all of these little wedges here from the cube mechanic, and pretty much the cube mechanic exclusively. You also get these divinity stones, which can be used as a currency here in town at the Blessing of the Gods. And pretty much you go and you look through here. You can refresh the shop to kind of find deals here. And lots of times it's a good way to get Flame Elementium early game. And in the shop, sometimes there's going to be very, very rare legendaries. But for the most part, you're pretty much looking for like maybe like wedges that are good price, or Flame Elementium that's good price. And yeah, that's pretty much like what the Divinity Stones are used for. However, the rest of the mechanic is pretty much the Tetris part of your passive tree. If you open up your passive tree and go down to the Statue of the New God, this is kind of the section where you can kind of like move around these slates, maybe like go and adjust them or rotate them like so. And that went right back to itself. And I just want to note that when it says rotate, it doesn't mean actually rotate. It means randomize the direction that this is facing. And when it says change shape, it just means try to change the shape into something else. It's not necessarily going to always rotate 1-to-1, which kind of drove me crazy at first. And also you could like rotate this into like, you could rotate like an L into like a completely opposite, like non-rotatable direction. You don't have to like roll the exact correct. So like I could get this L block here, for example, to go the other direction on the L, which is normally not something you could do in Tetris. But these give you a lot of power. You can add additional modifiers to these on the bottom by like using these wedges that we were showing off before. And this is typically something you're really going to work on at really all stages of the game, like having some kind of junk slates early on and then kind of progressing through. And these mostly drop from just doing the cube mechanic in your map. Pedigree is pretty much one of the most important slates in the game. Pretty much this is a major legendary slate that can have up to 2 main talents. And so a good pedigree that has 2 main talents on it is going to be a pretty big investment for you towards the late game. And these are very just good in general. Lastly, Divinity Pacts for cube stuff pretty much allows you so that when you're adding a legendary mod to your slates here, you can guarantee where they're going to come from. So if I was adding a legendary mod to this one, for example, it pretty much can go and hit any legendary mod that is a Goddess of Knowledge mod. So I can go and see here all the legendary options. But a lot of these probably aren't good for me. And so if I'm like, I really want one of these 3 from Goddess of Knowledge, I could go and use a Goddess of Knowledge Divinity Pact, which comes from the cube boss, also comes from doing cube mechanic just in general. You can, lock it in that way. Next up, we have Dreams. This is one of my favorite League mechanics. This is a mechanic where you can get power on your weapons or on your armor or accessories, trinkets. And it looks like this little like blue lotus flower here. And this will always have a blue positive effect here on the implicit of your gear, and then a red negative implicit. And so you go and interact with Patty down here to dream interpret. This allows you to basically add these effects to this gear. Now you can only have 3 active at a time. And you can see how many you have in this spot right here. But you can find the shallow dream talking stuff just from doing the dream mechanic in the game. It specifically comes from doing the nightmare part. Very unlikely to get it anywhere else, except for there's sometimes bosses that show up in your normal maps, but that is kind of rare. Next up, we have blends. These are basically implicits that you get on your belt. All of these come from doing the Sandlord mechanic. And the part of the Sandlord mechanic that they come from is specifically the sending off of goods. So if we go up here to Sandlord, it's like a little city that you can build up. And one of the things you can do is you can send out shipments to different islands. And these islands have a chance to give you different rewards, depending on like how much you send when you fill out the entire requirement for the shipment. And also when, you can get these different things. You can use these to add these modifiers anywhere. You don't have to actually go to Sandlord. All you have to do is right click them, and then you can add modifiers to your belt. And you can even add modifiers to a corroded belt. The other thing that Sandlord gives is probes. And these are basically like advanced compasses. You can use one at a time. On a map, there are profound for profound maps, and then there are deep space probes for doing deep space. And these come from the other half of this dock, sending out gliders to go and raid sand pirates. When they come back, they have a chance to bring a probe with them, or you can have like a special event where you get some more probes as well. Sequences is the new mechanic that came in this last season, Outlaw, and you apply these to your gear by acquiring mods or expansion mods for your type of weapon. The base mod is for getting the lower tier of sequences, whereas the expansion mods are for the higher tier. And these will pretty much add another implicit for your weapon. So mine, for example, here is Apocalypse, which gives me a lot of damage. This is an advanced sequence. This will actually be gone from the game on Friday, but this is a very powerful way to get power into your build, and you cannot apply these to legendary pieces of gear. I didn't mention this on Dreams, but Dreams can also not get applied to legendaries as well. And you get these from just doing the Outlaw mechanic. There will be, I believe, some stuff in the Void chart to increase the odds of dropping this stuff. But yeah, this is just going and doing the Outlaw mechanic in the Netherrealm. Tokens are the other thing that you can earn from the Outlaw mechanic. And this is pretty much the giga gambling currency stuff. You can gamble on the energy of your gear. You can risk Fluorescent Memories to potentially double them or destroy them. You can potentially re-roll the values of all of the affixes on your gear from 0 to 100%. There's 1 to 100%. You can potentially blow up undetermined fates or turn them into tens of thousands of FE of stuff, most likely going to blow them up, and a whole bunch of stuff. And all of this also comes just from doing the Outlaw mechanic. Priceless Gear is something a lot of people ask about, and this is pretty much the pinnacle gear for the game in terms of non-legendary gear. You can always tell it's priceless by a few things. One, it'll literally say priceless in the name. Two, it'll be item level 100. And three, there will pretty much always be an implicit. Now that Outlaw has a way for you to gamble on priceless, I think it could potentially make you have a priceless that doesn't have an implicit, but I could be wrong about that. I think it might just blow it up instead. And these, most importantly, allow you to craft on them to add ultimate mods. So you can not use the ultimate affix part unless it is on a priceless piece of gear. And pretty much all of these are going to be very big damage or defense affixes that you can add to your gear. And these pretty much just drop anywhere. There is a passive tree that does increase the odds in the Void chart of getting priceless gear. But for the most part, I wouldn't even expect to drop one of these before doing like 8-1. And even in Profound with the passive tree, farming all day, you might drop a few. These are very, very, very rare. Very difficult to get your hands on, especially getting the right thing you want, because some of these implicits have different rarities. So for example, like on a ring, you could have applies Timid Curse, which is one of the things that you typically want to get from Dreams. And so having Timid Curse on ring is super expensive. Next up, we have Fates. This is a mechanic where you can basically replace the stuff that you have on your pack spirits by placing in a fate in its place. So I have all of these mana fates right now. And all of this just comes from doing the Arcana season mechanic. Obviously the Arcana pet is really strong here. You're normally limited to only doing 4 medium fates and 9 small ones. But with undetermined fates, you can go and install them in this last spot here. And it can expand how many fates you can put in by like up to 5 small or 3 medium is the nicest. Now, if you scrap fates, you can get Wandering Stars, which you can hand in at the vendor to potentially gamble for random fates. I've gotten some good results from doing that. And you are going to need star nets to safely remove fates from a particular spot. Next up, blueprints. These are pretty much fragments of the tippity top and legendaries. These are like the ultimate legendaries, Eternity and Lone Walker's Boots. And so finding one of these is like finding a fragment of one. If you collect 5 blueprint eternities, you can smoosh them together to make an eternity. And these are pretty cool. And these just drop pretty much anywhere. They're pretty rare. Some people will say that like Dark Surge drops them more frequently, just because Dark Surge tends to be focused on dropping more legendaries anyways. So it kind of takes that spot. But yeah, these are just, difficult to find in the first place. Next up, we have Sprout of Legend. This is pretty much, or Legends. This is one of my least favorite things in the game, because you hand these in at the guy in town. That is at the bottom of the steps. And he'll send you to a portal, Cradle of Renewal here. And when you go in there, there will be a number of chests equal to the number of sprouts you handed him. And inside those chests is mostly junk. I don't think I've ever really dropped anything good from these. I opened up all of the ones I got last season, and I'm still waiting for a nice payout this season for sure, right? And these do sell pretty well. Now you do find these, I believe, more in Deep Space, but I do believe they start dropping here in Profound. But Deep Space has 200% additional Sprout of Legends drop quantity. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Lastly, we have the Twin Reflection. And this is the like big daddy pinnacle ultimate holy mother call your mom to get the camera type of drop. Because what this is basically the equivalent of a mirror in Path of Exile. You can take an item and duplicate it and make a second item. And that might not sound all that cool. Like, why does that matter? I already have the item. Why would I make it? Well, you can also use the auction house to craft an item this way. So if I go here to weapon, I don't know if there'll actually be any of these weapons right now, but go do reflection item. There are none. One sec. Okay, so these are reflection items right here. So as you can see here, this particular staff is insane. It has +2 focus, lucky critical strike, a whole bunch of other modifiers on it that are really nice, a really rare sequence as well. And a lot of these times, these will also have a double corrosion on as well, with 2 tier 0+ modifiers. And what you can do if you have the Flame Elementium Fee and the Twin Reflection, you can just click the replicate button and you will get a mirrored copy that looks like this in your mailbox for your purchase box for the auction house. And you can't do any additional crafting on this particular piece of gear, but this gives you access to some of the most powerful pieces of gear in the game. And typically Twin Reflections are like a lot of money. Lastly, I want to put in this candles. Candles are a mechanic that just got removed from the game. You'll probably see a lot of references to these and written or video guides, but they're not in the game. So don't worry about that. If you're trying to find candles, they're just not there anymore. And maybe they're going to go and sync out some more of these other mechanics that I've already talked about, and I'll have to redo this video. However, that's pretty much how to find everything in Torchlight Infinite. Maybe a little bit rambly at time, but I feel like I did a pretty good one take there. Hopefully this video helped you out as a new player or even a returning player, or just, just trying to figure out what stuff comes from at period at all. I plan to maybe update this video in the future if they add new stuff or remove stuff, but let me know what you think. Was this worth recording? And if you guys want to come see me play some Bing 2 this season, we'll be blowing stuff up, having a great time. Come by the stream. I'll be streaming a whole ton. See you again soon. Have a good one.